It was my birthday, I think. A Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Doesn't matter. What matters is the quiet weight of it. Another year, another layer of this skin. My wife, Michelle, stirred beside me, just barely. A mumble, something about happy birthday. Then she was gone again, swallowed by her pillow, her hospital shifts already pulling her under. I lay there, listening to her shallow breathing, the slow, rhythmic beat of her exhausted heart. She worked herself to the bone, always. Surgeon. Long hours, late nights, emergency calls. It was tough on her, I knew. But it was also my grace. My secret. Our life. From the outside, it was so normal. The little house in the quiet cul-de-sac, the 2 cars in the driveway, the neat lawn. My job, some kind of data analysis, bland enough to be invisible. Michelle, brilliant and driven. We were a couple, a unit, and I played my part. I played it well. But this skin, this meat suit I wore, it was heavy. It chafed. Every muscle felt pulled tight, every breath a shallow mimicry. My joints ached in a way human joints shouldn't. Most days, I could peel it off the moment she left for her shift, or when she passed out from sheer fatigue. It was my only respite, my only chance to just be, to stretch and feel the air, the true air, on my true form. That morning, though I couldn't. Not yet. Her brief, almost unconscious acknowledgement, it lingered. A sliver of connection, even if she wouldn't remember it. It tethered me. And the need to shed this form, it started to build then. A deep, vibrating hum beneath my ribs. It wasn't a pain, not exactly. More like a profound, primal wrongness. The human body, it just wasn't built for me. It felt like trying to force a river into a garden hose. Too much pressure. Too much self held back by flimsy casing. I remember trying to flex my fingers, just small movements beneath the sheets. The skin stretched thin, almost translucent over the knuckle. And for a fleeting, terrifying second, I thought I saw something else, something harder, darker, just beneath the surface. I forced myself to stop. The thought of Michelle waking up, seeing anything, it was enough to clamp down on the rising tide of discomfort. I had to wait. Always wait. That was the rule. The only rule that kept my world, our world, intact. But the waiting felt different now. Sharper. Like the skin was starting to crack, just barely, around the edges. The next day, the ache intensified. It wasn't just physical now. It seeped into my thoughts, made me jumpy. Every glance in the mirror felt like a confrontation. The face staring back, it was mine, technically. But it was also a mask, and the seams felt like they were straining. I tried to dismiss it, of course. Told myself it was stress, or a touch of the flu. Maybe I needed to eat better, sleep more. But I knew. Deep down I knew. This was the suit itself, reacting, protesting. I tried to distract myself with work, but the numbers on the screen blurred, twisting into patterns that almost resembled the intricate etchings on my true skin. I kept clenching my jaw, trying to relieve some pressure, but it just made the muscles ache even more. My fingers felt too long, too clumsy for the keyboard. When Michelle called later that afternoon, her voice was unusually bright, a little too upbeat. "Hey, love," she said. "I'm heading home a bit early today. Got a surprise for you." My stomach dropped. A surprise? That was not good. Surprises meant deviation. Deviation meant risk. My heart, the one that beat a human rhythm, hammered against my ribs. "Oh," I tried to sound casual. "That's great, honey. Everything okay at the hospital?" She laughed, a light, airy sound that didn't quite reach her usual warmth. "Perfectly fine. Just don't do anything before I get there, okay? Just relax. Don't do anything." The words echoed, mocking me. Don't do anything like shed my skin? Be myself. I paced the living room after hanging up, the human form feeling more cumbersome than ever. Michelle was never home early. Never. This was unheard of. My mind raced, trying to find an explanation. Was she sick? No. Her voice was too cheerful for that. A present? We didn't really do big birthday presents. The discomfort in my skin suit wasn't just an ache now. It felt like a crawling sensation, like something was trying to shed itself from the inside. I went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. The reflection stared back, eyes wide, a sheen of sweat on the forehead. The illusion was thin, too thin. I could feel the edges of the suit pulling, the faint outline of something else trying to push through the facial structure. A muscle in my cheek twitched uncontrollably. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that I couldn't keep it contained for much longer. Not if she was coming home early. Not tonight. The sun was starting to dip, painting the living room in long, orange shadows when I finally heard her car pull into the driveway. My body seized up, an involuntary rigidity. Every nerve ending screamed, demanding release, demanding air, demanding to be. But the sound of her car, the familiar click of the garage door, it locked me into this form. I could almost hear the skin groaning under the strain. I had barely made it to the doorway, forcing a smile that felt alien on my face, when she burst in, a whirlwind of energy I hadn't seen in months. "Surprise!" she practically shouted, her eyes sparkling. And then, she didn't stop there. "Okay, ready?" she beamed, gesturing wildly behind her. My breath hitched. This wasn't a small thing. I could feel it. The air in the house felt thick, stuffed. I heard a faint shuffle from the hallway, a muffled cough from behind the sofa. It wasn't just Michelle. My gut twisted, a cold knot forming in my stomach. She stepped aside, a dramatic flourish. "Come on in, everyone," she announced, her voice booming with genuine delight. And then the first one emerged. My Aunt Carol, from behind the recliner. My Aunt Carol. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim light, and then she saw me. Not fully, not yet, but enough. Enough to see the subtle warping around my jawline, the way my human eyes struggled to hold their shape, the sudden, involuntary flex of a tendon that was far too pronounced. Her cheerful smile vanished, replaced by a slow, dawning horror. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She swayed, grabbing at the wall for support, her gaze fixed on me, wide and disbelieving. And then, she crumpled, slid down the wall like a discarded rag doll, landing in a heap on the carpet. The shock of it, Aunt Carol collapsing, it was a physical blow. My carefully constructed reality, so fragile, so meticulously maintained, had just shattered. The human skin suit, already screaming in protest, began to tear. Not visible tears, not yet, but I could feel the internal rupture. The pressure became unbearable. I didn't mean to react the way I did. My arm shot out, a reflex, a jolt of power coursing through the strained muscles, a flash of something hard and pointed pushing against the sleeve. It was meant to stop her, to protect the secret, but it was too late. The air filled with confused murmurs, then gasps, as more figures started to emerge from every corner of the house. From behind curtains, from under tables, from the kitchen, dozens, hundreds, all blinking, all confused, all now seeing me. Michelle, bless her heart, was instantly by Aunt Carol's side, her medical instincts kicking in. She didn't even look at me, not at first, just focused on her aunt, checking for a pulse, murmuring reassurances. The room swelled with people, a sea of faces, all belonging to strangers or people I barely recognized. Colleagues, old neighbors, distant cousins. They were all murmuring, their eyes darting between the collapsed figure on the floor and me. I could feel the transformation accelerating now, a relentless, unstoppable force. My fingers were elongating, the nails sharpening, pushing against the soft human pads. The skin on my face felt like it was rippling, pulling back from my jaw, revealing something harder, multifaceted. Underneath, I tried to speak, to explain, to tell them, what? That it wasn't what it looked like? That this wasn't me? But it was me, my true self, finally bursting forth, unable to be contained any longer. I reached out a hand, a desperate plea, but even to my own eyes, it looked less like a human hand and more like a bundle of calcified bone and chitin, tipped with points that glinted dully in the dimming light. A woman in a floral dress screamed, a high, piercing sound that cut through the confused chatter. Then another scream, and another. Panic, a raw, animal terror, started to spread through the crowd. Michelle finally looked up. Her eyes, wide and bewildered, met mine. She saw it. She saw me. The full, unvarnished truth. The human mask, half gone, dangling like a tattered curtain. The smooth skin peeled back from my cheekbones, revealing intricate, almost crystalline structures beneath. My mouth, frozen in what I intended as a reassuring smile, was a gaping maw of razor-sharp ridges. I could feel the internal organs of the suit shifting, contracting, making room for my true form. There was no going back. This was it. The secret was out, and a strange, wild relief surged through me, overpowering the terror. Finally, I was free. I could be. I wanted to embrace it. I wanted to turn to these terrified guests, these hundreds of unexpected witnesses, and welcome them, to show them, to explain everything. But the noises they were making, the raw, guttural fear, it didn't sound like welcome. It sounded like prey. And in that moment, as I stretched, feeling the immense power of my true form beginning to unfurl, I realized the full scope of the trap. My own home, the place of my freedom, was now a cage of terrified humans. The shrieks were deafening now, a cacophony of human terror. The party dissolved into a stampede, a desperate scramble for the doors, for any exit. People tripped over furniture, over each other, their faces contorted in expressions of pure, unadulterated horror. Michelle, still kneeling beside her aunt, slowly pushed herself up, her gaze never leaving me. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, but there was something else there too. A flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. Not fear, not entirely. More like recognition. Or perhaps a deep, silent understanding of an irreversible mistake. I tried to reach for her, to communicate, to convey that this was still me, just me. But my new form, still emerging, was not built for human gestures. My limbs, growing longer, more angular, flexed with an unintended menace. My mouth, now fully revealed, stretched impossibly wide, revealing rows of needle-like teeth that shimmered in the flickering light of the hallway. The sound that came out was not a human voice. It was a wet, clicking hiss, a guttural rasp that scraped against the ears, a sound meant for depths no human could comprehend. A man, one of Michelle's colleagues, slipped on something wet near the dining room and fell, his head hitting the floor with a sickening thud. No one stopped. They just flowed around him, a river of panic, desperate to escape. The house, usually so warm and familiar, felt like an echoing cavern, filled with the frantic beats of hundreds of terrified hearts. The energy was palpable, a raw, delicious current of fear. It hummed through my newly exposed senses, a symphony of dread. It was exhilarating, terrifying, and completely, utterly consuming. I turned back to Michelle. She was still standing there, unmoving, watching the chaos erupt around her. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I could see the exact moment the realization truly sunk in. Not just that I was monstrous, but that this was it. Our life, our quiet, suburban illusion, was over. There was no going back. No apology, no explanation, no amount of human skin could ever patch this over. The party was a disaster, yes. But it was more than that. It was the end of everything. My existence, finally laid bare, had burned the world down around us. And as the last terrified guest clawed their way out the front door, leaving behind a ruined house and the heavy scent of fear, Michelle just stood there, staring, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. But it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of absolute, frozen horror. And in the sudden, echoing silence of our empty home, the only sound was the new, unfamiliar clicking of my many limbs and the frantic, shallow gasps of my wife, who just wanted to throw her husband a birthday party.